Jacobson, is there anything that you need to do, or Commissioner Grant, is there anything we need to do for doing the live?
I'm going live right now.
Awesome. All right.
And the
Good to
meeting's
go.
live on YouTube. Yep.
Perfect.
And did we start recording again? Yep. Cool.
Yes. Thank you. All right. I now call the meeting to order at 7:03 p.m. Welcome to ANC 1E's March General Body Meeting. A few administrative notes. Today's meeting is being recorded. Closed caption is available to each user by clicking the button on the toolbar below. Please submit questions through the Q&A function, also located on the toolbar below. Commissioners will be keeping an eye on the Q&A throughout the evening. If you're calling in rather than participating through the web, you can raise your hand by dialing *9. I'll now ask Secretary Grant to please conduct the roll call. Commissioner, I think you're on mute.
Okay. Excuse me from the top. Commissioner Howard,
Here.
Commissioner Hawker,
Here.
Commissioner Newland. Oh, he's going to be absent today. Commissioner Jacobson,
Present.
Commissioner Brown,
Here.
and Commissioner Flutter.
Present.
Super. We're all here.
So with 6 of 7 commissioners seated, we have a quorum. All right. So per DC law, the ANC 1E meeting was noticed to the community via listserv, social media, website, and e-calendar. We will now move to the approval of the agenda. So can everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
So we'll start off with the consent agenda. I'll read the items in a moment. Then we'll move to community announcements and presentations. And we have our regularly scheduled participants today. Then we'll move to official business and committee updates. We'll go by the committee order. So Transportation and Public Space Committee, there are no resolutions that we have under there. Zoning and Economic Development Committee, we have 2 resolutions under that. Public Safety and Engagement Committee, we have 2 resolutions under there. And then in other business, we have another resolution that Commissioner Hawker and others will present. Looking at the agenda, are there any additions or edits?
None here.
None from our end, I don't think.
Hearing none, I will now accept a motion to adopt the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Second. All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. Great. Any those opposed, please raise your hand. And any abstentions? All right. Well, the motion passes and the agenda is adopted. All right. Moving on to the consent agenda. Just a reminder, all matters listed under consent are considered by the commission to be routine and will be enacted by one motion. Sorry, something's going on. Any commissioner may, however, remove an item from the consent agenda by request. The consent agenda includes 2 items, which is the approval of our February meeting minutes and the approval of an expense of $1,123.60 for Shaw banners and installation fee of $500. Are there any items on the consent agenda that commissioners wish to move to official business or further discussion? All right, hearing none, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the consent agenda.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the consent agenda.
Second.
Is there any opposition? Dissent, I should say. All right, hearing none, motion passes and the consent agenda is approved. All right, we will now move to community announcements. Commissioners, And members of the community can use this time to make public announcements, distribute information, or alert the community about issues. We'll start with commissioners, then move to Councilmember Brianne Nadeau's office, then the Mayor's Office of Community Relations and Services, also known as MOCRS, then members of the public. All speakers will have 3 minutes. If you are here to speak on an issue or topic under official business, please hold until we get to that agenda item later in the meeting. And with that, do any commissioners have any announcements? Commissioner Hawker.
I have a general community announcement regarding the Columbia Heights spring yard sale. I do have a link with additional information for anybody who would like to attend, but this is serving more as an announcement, simply that the event will be taking place on April 6th, 2025 from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So if you're wondering why there's a lot of people out and about and a lot of, stuff sitting on sidewalks, that would be because of the yard sale. So anyone is welcome to participate. Sign up is free. I just wanted to let everybody know that that is what is coming up in a couple of weekends.
Great, thank you. Other commissioners?
I don't want to take away Commissioner Jacobson's thunder, but there's a ANC 1A cleanup that's happening on April 19th at 10 a.m. And this is being sponsored and partnered with the Clean Cities Initiative. So Commissioner Jacobson, you're included on the contact as a contact for ANC 1E on the flyer. So I wanted to make sure the community was aware of that.
Thanks. I think that was a mistake because I did not organize that, but that's okay.
Yeah.
Commissioner Brown, we'll move it so your name's on there. Will you be there? Should we tell everybody that you can be the POC?
Absolutely.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you. Any other announcements? I have one quick one. Just a quick update. So ANC 1A, 1E, and 1B have been getting together in order to engage the community to try and collect feedback and educate people about Councilmember Nadeau's new legislation. I guess it's not so new anymore. It's proposed about a month or two ago, dealing with oh my God, I'm blanking on the exact title of it. I apologize. But basically organizing some community benefits that would be done by a board. It would act very similarly to a bid. And we've been trying to coordinate across the 3 different ANCs to try and make sure that we are coordinated and talking about the bill in a unified voice. We've had really, really good engagement. 1B had 2 committee meetings. 1E has had 2 committee meetings, and 1A has had 2. And so now we're all getting together in about a week, and we're going to be aggregating all of our notes and coming up with a list of recommendations. And we'll be bringing it to the ANCs to vote on and kind of kick the tires around. But thank you so much to the council member's office for answering tons of questions, coming to 6 or more different meetings to try and help explain what it is. You guys are clearly very engaged and taking this very seriously, and it's very much appreciated. So if there are any other questions or comments, we had said during our zoning and economic development committee meeting to please send those comments to me. We're aggregating the comments from 1E, and we'll be bringing that to the kind of group when we get together in about a week. All right, commissioners, any other? All right, hearing none, we will move over to Councilmember Brianne Nadeau's office. And today we have a special guest, Nicole Rivero. Let me bring Nicole up. All right, Nicole, how are you?
Hi, everyone. Good to be here. How are you? I'm filling in for Estelle this week while she takes a much deserved vacation. So thank you for having me. Couple updates from our office. It sounds like there's already a cleanup being planned in 1E for the 19th, but we're encouraging Ward 1 neighbors and organizations to host cleanups throughout Earth Month, and especially on Saturday, April 26th. That's the day that the Anacostia Watershed Society is doing their cleanups to protect the Anacostia. We'll be cleaning up trash and counting bottles and cans and talking with folks about Councilmember Nadeau's bottle bill that she recently introduced with 10 other council members. That's the bill. I think we've talked with you guys about it before. It would have retailers collect a 10-cent deposit on most beverage bottles and cans, which the customer would then get back when they return them. It's something that's proven really effective in states that have implemented similar programs to keep trash out of our streets, out of our waterways. So if you're interested in doing a cleanup in your neighborhood, if you can't make it on the one that's on the 19th and want to do one, please reach out to us and we can help you organize that. Also related to the environment, you may have seen some smart compost bins popping up around the ward and around the district. There are 30 of them. Many of you may participate in the curbside program. That's only for residences with fewer than 4 units. And the farmers market composting is for everybody, but it's only on the weekends. Not everyone can make it out to drop off their compost. The smart bins are 24/7, so an additional option for folks to be able to compost. Ward 1 has 4 smart compost bins. There's one at Park Road and Pine Street Northwest. That's right off of 16th Street. At the Marie Reed Rec Center at 17th and Calorama. That's one of the busiest ones in the district, so Ward 1 can be proud of that. And there's one at 14th and U Street. Our next Brianne in Your Block, which is an opportunity for folks to come out and speak with a council member one-on-one about anything that's on your mind, is going to be April 8th from 6 to 8 p.m. Senator Ankit Jain will join us as well, and that's going to be at Los Hermanos at 1428 Park Road. It's about to be budget oversight season. The mayor will be dropping her FY26 budget in early April. Budget oversight hearings will begin right after that, when we really strongly encourage residents to participate, speak out at the hearings, or submit written testimony. You can go to our website and go to the committee page for info about all of our committee hearings. The council member is the chair of Public Works and Operations, and find out how to testify. You can also go to the council website for the full list of all of the hearings that are coming up soon. And so really want folks out there testifying about your experiences with agencies, what you think, we should be prioritizing in the budget. It's a really important part of the process. Another quick thing that's on people's minds a lot is the effect of federal actions on the district. As many of you may know, the continuing resolution that was passed by Congress left out a key provision that exempts DC from having to go back to its FY24 budget. As passed, it requires DC to cut $1.1 billion in the middle of the fiscal year. And the Senate passed a fix, and we're waiting for the House to do the same, hopefully the week of March 31st, but there's no guarantees. Councilmember Nadeau and many other council members and staff are working with the mayor and members of Congress trying to get this fixed. And then one last thing on federal actions. We've gotten a lot of questions about this from the community, so definitely want to address it. In mid-March, MPD officers were dispatched to the U.S. Institute of Peace, which is an independent nonprofit, to eject staff, is what some of the news reporting has said, and allow federal DOJ staff to enter the building. The council member has been clear that it's not the role of MPD to do this work and escort federal DOJ employees into private buildings. The council member and colleagues have spoken with MPD officials and are following up with the police chief with some very pointed and specific questions about the role the department has played and will play in the future in any similar actions. So we're keeping an eye on it, asking some questions and trying to learn more about what happened there. So I'll stop there and happy to take any questions about anything I spoke about or anything else.
Quick question on that note. Do you have any more information on some of the DHS stuff that happened today at DC schools? I know that they had gone to a couple of Ward 1 based schools, tried to go in and were refused at some areas. Can you maybe shine some light on what happened and what the city's response has been?
Yeah, sure. I don't have much more to share on the specifics, and also want to be mindful of the privacy of any folks that may have been targets. And so want to be careful about that. I think the biggest thing is that sort of the know your rights messaging that has come out both from our office, from others, and from a lot of trusted organizations that do this work has been effective. People have known their rights and known to ask for warrants and things like that. So a really important thing I think the entire community can do to support our neighbors is to continue to spread that messaging. I'm happy to follow up after the calls, we learn more, but we're aware and we're following what's going on.
Could you share some of those materials you just mentioned? It would be great. We could absolutely help to send the
Absolutely.
stuff out. Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Jacobson.
Sorry, I had to find the unmute. Question about the federal intervention or the Senate fix, I guess.
Mhm.
My understanding is that there is usually language passed in the bill that would include, or the language would allow DC to stay open and not shut down when the federal government shuts down. Is
Mhm.
that language that is going to be addressed in a supplemental fix, or are you aware of that issue?
That's a good question. Let me follow up with you about that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioners, other questions? Commissioner Hawker.
Yes, I'm curious to know if Councilmember Nadeau or any of the other council members will be convening an official oversight hearing or roundtable or other official event to question MPD's jurisdictional limits and overlaps, as I anticipate that this will only increase in frequency. Is there anything on the books planned to have an official set of questions and answers with the leadership of MPD regarding this issue?
As far as I'm aware, there's nothing scheduled. Let me check in with my staff on if that's being discussed or not and come back to you.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely.
Commissioners, any other questions? Right, hearing none, we'll turn to the community. Members of the community, if you have any questions for the council member's office, please feel free to raise your hand. We will call on you in the order in which we receive you. All right, seeing none. Nicole, thank you so much. Great to see you. Appreciate all the information you could share.
Great. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you. All right, and next we will move to Stephanie. I see that Anthony may not have been able to join us, so Stephanie will bring you up. Hey, Stephanie.
Hi,
Hi, how are you?
I'm good. Hello,
Please go
everyone.
right ahead. You got 3 minutes.
Thank you. So yes, again, I am here, but Anthony will be at the next meeting. We switch off meetings every 3 months, just to make it clear. I know it's a little confusing. I did hear from the council member's office. We have some similar event in regards to like the spring cleaning. We also have one with the mayor's office that will kick off on April 19 as well, 10 o'clock, starting on at 11th Street at the dog park. And we are working in partnership together with District Bridges, so we can make the announcement and just let the environment and everyone in the community to also know. I did hear that from the commissioner as well. Just wanted to also put that out. Same day as well. The only update I also wanted to give is in regards to the grants from DIMPAD that is out in the community. We wanted to push that forward to a lot of the community businesses that they are able to apply. The grant opened on March 14 and it will be closing on April 14. And we are really pushing for businesses to apply for this grant. because there are about 4 different grants, and I can send the link so they can have that information. And I'm also in the community going business to business to all those that are able and capable to apply for this grant. So just to also inform them as well. And that is all for now that I have currently. So everything that Councilmember Office mentioned is pretty much the same. I would have repeated it, but yes.
If you don't mind, I'll ask the first question. Can you add anything to what the council member's office was stating about the DHS events from today, how the city was responding? I mean, as the executive branch, is there something more that you guys are planning that you can articulate?
That for right now, to my understanding, we are going to be discussing a few more things tomorrow in regards to today's event. But I really don't have much to say.
Okay. Can you please share any information that comes out of that from yesterday or after tomorrow? The council member's office gave some resources. If you have additional things that we can help promote, and the council member's office put it in the chat, we will make sure to share it for everybody who's on today. But if you have anything else that you can share, please feel free to, or please send it over to us. That includes information, resources, all that stuff. That'd be great.
Yes.
Commissioners, other questions? All right. I'll now turn to the public. I see we have one person who has their hand up. 2 people. So we'll start with Sankofa Video and Books.
Sankofa should be able to unmute now.
Okay, hi, thank you. And I don't know how to make my video. I guess you don't need to see me. But yes, I'm just wondering about more information about those grants. We recently had a town meeting of a number of the businesses on Georgia Avenue and Black businesses, because we are, like they, concerned about being able to stay on Georgia Avenue. We feel that the possibility of staying there is becoming less and less, just because it's tougher to run a business in this new environment that started with gentrification. I guess not even started, but gentrification is a part of that. And also, of course, what's coming down the pike with the new economics. So I think that these grants are becoming more important for businesses on Georgia Avenue. There's a stark difference between what Georgia Avenue looks like now and what it looked like, the last 2, 3, 4, 5 years. You just see people closing and closing and closing. So we're concerned about that. We're trying to gather ourselves together to see what's going on and see if we can be proactive in making sure that we're able to stay, because we feel like we do contribute to the value of that Howard University radius and even further. So I would be very happy to hear more about your grants. And you said you're going door to door. Perhaps we can have a meeting, maybe of some of the other businesses at Sankofa to meet with you. I'd be happy to set something up. I don't know what you would suggest.
Okay, that sounds great, because I have been making my way slowly but surely to every business that I can as possible. I know it's just 2 of us, but just connecting with a few more that are able to help. But yes, I will be happy to help you. I'll leave my email, if I can, in the chat, and then we can definitely set something up. Because this is through DEMPAD, through the Great Streets.
Okay, is it the Great Streets grant that you're referencing now?
It is.
Okay, so perhaps we could set something up at Sankofa where you could present to not just us, but a number.
Oh, that would be great. We can set something up, because I also will let the director of DEMPAD that's actually handling that department for the grants to also come by and do another information session, because we had one in Columbia Heights last week. That was the opening, and then there was 2 other locations, but I believe that she wants to do another one. So I'll let her know and notify that Georgia Avenue will also be in that.
Oh, yes, please. Thank you so much.
I'll put my email in the chat if I can, and then you can just email me.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I did see there was another handout from Ashley Chapin. Did you have a comment, Ashley? Oh, great. Okay. Hi, Ashley.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Great. Sorry, this is my first ANC meeting, so apologies for not quite understanding the timing of the schedule here. I did have a comment for this ANC body, if that's the time to make a comment, or if not, a little
I
bit
tell you
longer.
what, give us 1 minute. We're gonna just get the remaining questions for Stephanie in the mayor's office, and then we're gonna open it up to the public to just address the body as they see fit. So don't go anywhere. Give us just like 1 minute.
Perfect. Thanks so much.
Awesome. I see Mr. Ray has his hand up. Promote to panelist. Mr. Ray.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. I just wanted to add on to the meeting with DemPed is that, District Bridges has resources as the Lower Georgia Avenue Main Street directors. And one of their primary roles is to work with the businesses on those grant applications. So I'm sure that DemPed would probably say this at the meeting, but it would not be a bad idea as we're organizing such a meeting is to have the Main Street director there, because then they can talk to you about what resources are available to help fill out those applications. Sometimes the applications themselves can be a little complicated. And so that is one of the main resources that having the Main Street directors is for. So just wanted to point that out since we're on that topic, but that's it.
Yes, and thank you for also pointing that out. And they were actually also at the meeting that we had when the grant was introduced.
Great. All right. Any other community announcements or, I'm sorry, let me rephrase it. Any other questions from the community to the mayor's office? Right, seeing none. Now we'll move into community announcements. And Ashley, we can start with you.
Thank you, and apologies again for timing. So, hi, my name is Ashley Chapin. I'm a resident of Parkview in ANC 1E04, and I'd love to address this ANC body first and foremost to thank you for passing a resolution to support the full and timely implementation of Initiative 83, which, as we remember, is for enacting ranked choice voting and allowing independents to vote in the primaries. So as we're talking about the budget season, I'd like to ask this ANC body once again to share your resolution of support with our Ward 1 council member. Of course, Nadeau's staffer is on the call as well. So I'd like to address you as well to extend my interest in this being added to our budget. And if you could also share your support with our at-large members and urge them to include Initiative 83 funding in the budget. And if you could please ask them not to split up the initiative or to delay the implementation, that would be very much appreciated. I understand it's a really chaotic time for DC, and I don't want this crucial legislation for fairer elections to be sidelined. So that's all.
Thank you very much. All right. Any other members of the public that wish to share an announcement? All right, seeing none. All right, we will now move into official business. So official business has been organized into 3 standing committees. The committee chairs will be providing a brief update on their committee's activities over the last month. Then they will walk through each item of business and have 5 minutes per item to present. They'll take questions from commissioners and audience members until a motion is proposed. And we will start with Transportation and Public Space Committee with Commissioner Jacobson.
Thank you, Chair Footer. It was a light agenda for the Transportation and Public Spaces Committee. We don't have any resolutions this month. We were just discussing some potential longer term questions. The first item we discussed was I want to make sure I'm getting the name of this right, the Strategic Parking Enforcement Enhancement Act of 2025. that was a bill introduced by Councilmember Nadeau. We talked about some other changes that we might like to see to the strategic parking enforcement in DC. One of the items that we discussed was whether or not it would make sense to allow Howard University's police department to do ticketing of vehicles near their property. There are other jurisdictions that allow school police departments to ticket vehicles near their property, and essentially they're given ticket books to write tickets just like DPW would, which seems like a reasonable way to reduce some of the pressures on DPW while also making sure that Howard is able to get the attention that they need near their campus. And so that's an item that we'll be considering for a future resolution. But if other folks on the commission or in the community have ideas on what you'd like to see to improve parking enforcement, I would love to hear it and happy to include those items in a potential resolution. And then the one other item we talked about that was coming from a ZED meeting, I think this was last month, was a potential for a bike lane on Bryant or W Street. There wasn't really a strong consensus either way on the committee. Main discussion was it would be nice to have that at some point. So I'll be reaching out to DDOT to chat more about that and see if that might be something in their longer term plans. And that was it from the committee.
Awesome. Any questions for Commissioner Jacobson? I had one community announcement that I forgot to do, and it's related to public space, if you don't mind, Commissioner Jacobson. So we had some really positive turn of events with trying to get a dog park at Banneker. Unfortunately, the DPR did determine that a dog park that would go at the corner of T and Florida was not a viable site. In their judgment, they did cite that Banneker would be a reasonable place to have one within the vicinity. And so that it was very exciting. And the neighbors that I've been working with to try and petition to potentially get that ball rolling are now activating again. And we have a meeting with DPR to just get a better understanding of what that means coming out of the committee already and how we can kind of escalate that kind of quickly. So looking forward to those conversations. And Commissioner Jacobson, I put you on all those emails, so please, join us. It's in your district. So
thank you. And I see there's a hand raised in the chat from Sankofa. I will allow to talk. You should be able to unmute now.
Okay, hi, thanks. My name is Shirikiana Garima. Sorry to introduce myself. So I think we should be also aware of how parking affects businesses on George Avenue. So the clientele of many of those businesses have to take public transportation and they can do that if they're young. They can't bicycle because many of them are not, going to be able to do that. Our clientele, for example, are people who've been coming to those businesses for a number of years, and some of them live far now. So they do have to park. So I guess my question to the committee is, how do we take into consideration as we move toward a transportation policy that is more friendly to climate and safety? How do we take into consideration people who are not able to do anything that like public transportation or bicycles or things like that?
Commissioner Jacobson, good.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure how to answer the question. I know a large portion of the folks that are traveling on Georgia Avenue are within the buses. I think it's 52%. So I understand that there are going to be parking challenges. There will always be parking challenges in a very dense area of the city. So I'm not really sure what potential actionable steps would be there, because I think making sure that folks can use public transit is just as important.
Right.
I maybe offer a recommendation. This is clearly a topic that it's very large, and it's something that's going to require a lot of time and a lot of discussion. So I think that Transportation and Public Space Committee is a great venue to have that conversation, particularly with some of the experts that the commissioner has been able to recruit to join. And so it would be wildly beneficial if you are able to join the Transportation Committee and present that voice as topics come up, and maybe even spearhead the conversation from the committee level to make sure that you're actually addressing some of those issues in a more sustainable way. Would that interest you? Would you be interested in joining the Transportation and Public Space Committee?
I'd be happy to have those conversations. I don't know what joining the committee entails, but I'd be happy to have those conversations. It would either be me or some other people that are working with us. Yes.
Yeah. If you don't mind putting your information in the Q&A, not the chat, but the Q&A, we can follow up after this meeting. I say the Q&A just because the Q&A comes directly to the panel and it's not publicly putting it out there. I don't want to put your contact information out there without your consent. And so if you just put it in the Q&A, we'll take it from there and we'll follow up with you at the meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions from the public for Commissioner Jacobson? All right, seeing none. Commissioner Jacobson, anything else?
Our next meeting is next Wednesday, April 2nd at 7 p.m.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, next we will move on to Zoning and Economic Development Committee with Mr. Michael Ray. Note. Mr. Ray.
Good evening, commissioners. Just getting everything back on. You get to see my face since I actually head one of these committees, I guess. Thanks very much for continuing to have me do this. We did have a meeting this month, and as Chair Footer mentioned, one of the primary topics was the Neighborhood Management Authority. NMA. So you might hear that come up a couple more times before the council members' legislation actually gets passed. But in addition to that, we also discussed the comprehensive plan. So Office of Planning has announced that they are doing a major rewrite of the comprehensive plan for DC in order to prepare the city for what they expect to need by 2050. So this is an opportunity for the community to help them set the vision. We're having a lot of discussions tonight about parking, about transportation, about how businesses are effective. The comprehensive plan is one of the things that does a lot of that because it sets density and talks a little bit about how that density can be beneficial to businesses. So if you are a business owner or you work, live, play in the District of Columbia, you should participate in this comprehensive plan rewrite. And the first way that you would do that is to go to dc2050.dc.gov. And I'll say it again, and I'm sure we'll put it in the chat sometime, but dc2050.dc.gov. And you can sign up to get their monthly newsletter. You'll find out that there are public meetings. In fact, there's a public meeting, I believe, tomorrow night online. And it's a long process. This is probably a 2 to 3 year deal where the Office of Planning starts it. And we'll put together a vision, and then they will start to put together a plan, and they will be putting it out for different kinds of comments over that period of time. And once the Office of Planning, the ANCs will also play a role in sort of helping set what they think their individual communities needs. And then once that plan is finalized and approved by the mayor, then it will go to the council, and then the council has an opportunity through their usual process to also make changes and eventually pass it. It is a law, and that law primarily affects what the zoning commission does and how we plan for where things are going to be. So it is primarily a document to affect the Office of Zoning and the Zoning Commission. So just so that people understand where this goes. But there are a lot of different policies get set within here, and they become sort of a wish document, but the Zoning Commission really are the ones who have to follow what the plan says. So we spend a lot of time on that. We will continue to spend a lot of time on that during this process. So if you are interested in it, feel free to reach out to me or to start to come to our meetings, which are on that second Wednesday of every month. And then we discussed this next case that is on here is for a stipulated liquor license, but that was in Chairman Footer's area, so I'll let him go ahead and talk about that, but we did vote to support it.
Thank you very much. I'm just going to pull up the resolution. Two documents open. All right, can you see the resolution?
Yes.
Great. Melange Food is the second or third venture that this chef is opening. It's coming into the space in Atlantic Plumbing, which is at the corner of 8th and V. It used to be a Roy Boys. It's been vacant for a little while. The neighborhood's very excited that he's coming and opening in our building. I met with them and he walked me through the place and what he's looking to do. And he's really trying to operate this as a full restaurant, and it's asking for less hours of operation than what he is allowed. A lot of the pieces of operation are part of Atlantic Plumbing's operations. And so trash pickup and rat abatement and the things that we would typically put into a settlement agreement are taken care of. And so with that, not only are we supporting the idea of having a stipulated license while we go through the process, but are proposing not to move forward with the protest or a settlement agreement. That's it. Any questions? All right. Well, hearing none, actually, do you mind, Mr. Ray, I'll go to the community first, or would you rather do both of your?
No, you should go to the community, see if they have any questions on this. And if they had anything on DC 2050, I'd be happy to answer those too.
Okay. So I'll turn to the community members. If you have any questions with respect to this first resolution on a stipulated license for Melange Food, please raise your hand. You can also feel free to raise your hand if you have any questions with respect to some of the information that Mr. Ray had provided as some of the activities they had done over the past month. All right, seeing none. If there are no further questions, I'll now accept a motion to adopt the resolution.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution as written.
Is there any dissent? Hearing none, motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you. Mr. Ray, please continue.
All right, if you go ahead and bring up the next item. So there was there's a BZA, an active BZA case, but it is actually in ANC 1A along Sherman Avenue, just across the street from ANC 1E. And so when properties are within 200 feet of another ANC, they also have an opportunity to be a party and weigh in on the case. This came in after our meeting, so we did not have an opportunity to review this in the committee. So I reviewed it and came up with a recommendation based on how the ANC has handled these kind of cases in the past. So the case is a very simple conversion of a single family home into 3 units. That happens all the time. And then they're adding an addition off the back end. And that back end, goes towards the alley. Well, that all happens on the 1A side of all of this. There, the people who live across the street won't even know that there is a back end. So my recommendation to you all is that we send in a report that says that the case does not generally affect the people in 1E, but it does, have a direct impact on the folks in 1A. 1A has met with the applicant according to them, and likely will come up with their recommendation here shortly. I understand that they were in support. And so this simply says that you all, the commission, would support the findings of 1A as they are the more directly affected ANCs. I'll say this happens from time to time on larger developments. The Bruce Monroe Park Morton case was one that was multi-jurisdictional, and sometimes we have to work together because those issues are much more large scale. This is clearly not one of those. If there are any questions, I'm happy to help.
Michael, or Chairman.
Please go ahead.
Michael, thanks for this. I think the only question I would have is what would affect residents in 1E would be parking on the street and, traffic and trash cans, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm assuming 1A took that into account, but I just wanted to raise that as like that. I could see that affecting the residents.
Sure.
Other questions? Commissioner Brown.
Michael, have we chatted with 1A about this?
I have not actually spoken to them, other than that I'm aware that they had a meeting. So I'm expecting that their report is forthcoming, but I did not talk to them directly.
We don't know how they voted.
Again, I am told that they are in support, but I did not confirm. I did not try to confirm that, which is why this is actually written to say that we support the findings of 1A. We did not
Right.
say, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Right. Any other questions, commissioners?
I guess my only question coming back to it was we say in here that we do not believe the residents of 1E will be unduly affected. We take into account the things I had mentioned, right? Just making sure.
Yeah. So the word the word choice here is important. Unduly is actually a zoning parlance word, where there's always an effect. The first thing that the chair of the BZA or the zoning commission is going to tell you is there's always an impact. The question is that impact undue to what you're asking for? And in this case, I can tell you from experience, because I've actually tried to not have 3-unit conversions happen on blocks where they didn't have an alley and the trash has to go out front. And they come back and said, that's life. So there's not an undue impact enough that I think that what they've asked for here would not go through. And the where you then come into play is, where you look at, well, what can how can they make a change to the project? They're still going to make the 3 units, and the back end of it is not in an area where we're going to see it. So I don't think there'd be a change that you could ask for here either. So
yeah, I would just we say we just make sure when that statement was backed up, and it sounds like you did all your homework. So thank you. I appreciate it.
no problem. There's a reason you had me do this for you, I guess.
And I'm grateful.
Very true. All right, members of the public, any questions for Commissioner Ray with respect to this special exception request? All right, seeing none. If there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion with respect to the form.
So moved.
I didn't make a motion. I'll accept it. Yeah.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt this form as written.
Correct.
Second.
Is there any dissent? All right, hearing none, motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you very much, Mr. Ray. Anything else?
I think your form here tells us that we'll have another meeting next month. I do know that there are some BZA cases that are coming up. And I will just say to the commissioners that if you know you have a case, we should probably talk, because I've done a cursory review and I already have some questions. So there could be, these ones might be a little bit, there might be a little bit to them. So it's not going to go this quickly next time.
Yes, I was going to say I will be reaching out to you about a concern about a few requests involving deliveries out until 2 a.m., which I thought was interesting and I had not seen before. So I'm sure it will not go as swiftly next time, but I will.
Yeah. Let's absolutely talk about any concerns you guys have that might affect a case like this. I'm happy to help you work with them. Good night.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Ray. All right, next we'll move to Public Safety and Engagement Committee. Commissioner Newland wasn't able to join us, but I know Commissioner Jacobson, you were coordinating with him.
I was.
So I'll hand it over to you, sir.
I think our coordination extends to the first resolution, and I think you put your name on the second resolution. So we can start with the first resolution on resolution condemning the reinstatement of officers convicted in the death of Karen Hilton Brown and subsequent obstruction of justice. Do you want to pull that resolution up?
Yes. Can you see my
Yep. So this resolution is to give the fact pattern of what happened in the death of Karen Hilton Brown by these two MPD officers. So the first of I think 5 whereas clauses is just reviewing the history of the case and their subsequent pardons, and then MPD's subsequent reinstatement of both officers. The 6th whereas clause is just talking about public confidence in law enforcement depends on the integrity of officers and assurance that those who abuse their power, especially by actively obstructing investigations, will not be rewarded with a reinstatement. And these 2 officers were convicted by a jury for obstructing their investigation. The next whereas clause is discussing how the reinstatement of these officers convicted of obstruction of justice sends a dangerous message that MPD tolerates dishonesty and misconduct within its rank, making it more difficult for residents to trust the police officers will uphold the law fairly and impartially. And then we get to the resolved clauses. So the first is that as a commission, we are strongly condemning the reinstatement of these officers and demanding that MPD reverse this decision in the interest of public safety, justice, and accountability. The next is urging the DC Council and Mayor's office to review MPD's rehiring policies, particularly concerning officers convicted of obstruction of justice, given the points discussed above. And that's to ensure that individuals who have actively worked to subvert legal investigations are not allowed to serve in law enforcement for. And then we're almost to the end. The last 2, one is to urge the DC Office of Police Complaints to examine the rehiring practices of MPD with respect to officers that were previously convicted of obstruction of justice. And then the last is asking that Chief Smith and Mayor Bowser hold a public forum with impacted community members to address the concerns arising from this decision.
Great. Questions?
Yes, I do have one quick question. I just can't
Yes.
remember if it's in the whereas clause. Are we calling or resolving to ask for these 2 reinstated officers to be fired?
I guess we are in the reverse this decision in
Okay,
the first be
thank
it
you.
resolved.
Thank you.
Other questions? All right. Members of the public, if you have any questions with respect to the resolution, please feel free to raise your hand.
Well, I have a question.
Please, Commissioner Brown, go
Before
ahead.
you go for a vote, I'm sorry. And do you also want to just note the impact that it would have on 40 residents, just considering that it's within the boundaries of this ANC?
We could. Does it add that much?
It isn't that much value, but I mean, it does, impact us within ANC 1E that we have 40 within our, boundaries.
Oh, sorry. Yes. I was thinking that you said for
Not fourth
C.
district. I
Yeah,
mean,
I thought
not
you
fourth,
mean
not
fourth
fourth
district, not
ward,
like
fourth
Ward
district.
4 ANC.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay.
just understanding, making sure that our residents in 1E know that we are impacted as a 4D within the 4D boundaries.
It speaks to our interest in the case specifically as well as broadly.
Friendly
Here.
Yeah, we can just do a
wherever it fits.
yeah. Whereas ANC 1E is within the boundaries of
Fourth district.
the 4th district. Yeah. For MPD. So this has an impact on our residents.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
No, thank you for that. That's a good thing to call out.
Like this.
Yep. semicolon space and bold that whereas, and we're golden.
Look at that teamwork.
And oh, sorry, and this decision impacts ANC 1E constituents.
Mhm.
Great. Any other questions, comments? All right, hearing none. If there are no other questions, I'll accept a motion in support of resolution condemning the reinstatement of officers convicted in the death of Karen Hilton Brown and subsequent obstruction of justice.
I'll make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution as written. It just feels weird for my own resolution, but I'll do it.
Is there any dissent?
I was gonna say, you did all the work. You should be able to have the privilege of introducing it.
All right, hearing none, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted.
And great work on that, Josh. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
good
you.
job. All right. Josh, I'm happy to take this, but it was really your idea, and I just kind of helped.
Fair.
Do you
Yeah,
wanna-
yeah. Sure,
I can
pull it up, we'll
add.
talk through it.
As the author, I'm happy to add, but it is your idea.
This next resolution is around the events that Nicole discussed at the U.S. Institute of Peace. I mix up of and for there. So the whereas is just establishing the fact pattern of what we have from news outlets as to MPD assisting Doge in breaching the headquarters of USIP, talks about what Doge is. It talks about MPD officers being involved in securing the perimeter and providing logistical support. Fourth whereas is around MPD's involvement in Doge's aggressive tactics, raises questions about the department's independence and decision-making behind its participation and the future potential for conflict between DC local law enforcement and federal overreach. The next whereas clause is mentioning how this participation is particularly concerning given how federal agencies already exert significant control over public safety in DC, often to our detriment. The next one is talking about how the unchecked collaboration between MPD and politically influenced federal entities like Doge could set a dangerous precedent, allowing future administrations to use local law enforcement as a tool for partisan objectives. Then the last whereas is calling attention to the DC Council chair of the Committee on the Judiciary and Public Safety, Chair Pinto, has direct oversight of MPD, and we'd like to see immediate action to make sure that this kind of politically charged intervention doesn't happen again. And then we have several be it resolved clauses. The first is asking for an oversight hearing to understand MPD's role in the Doge-led breach of USIP. There are a lot of things that we're calling out in there as to what we would like to see discussed at such a hearing. Asking that MPD provides full transparency, including a full report on the breach, and publishing the report for the public to review so MPD can restore trust and ensure MPD's operations remain accountable to DC residents rather than external political interests. And the next one is talking about wanting law enforcement agencies to proactively prepare for addressing jurisdictional challenges by developing and publishing clear protocols, and requesting the DC Attorney General's office to assess whether MPD's involvement in this operation violated any local laws or DC's home rule authority. And then ANC 1E is reaffirming the need for local control over MPD, and ANC 1E strongly opposes any efforts to further entangle MPD in politically motivated federal operations.
And Commissioner Jacobson, my name wasn't in there. It was there, and then I added yours as well. Is that
cool?
Yeah. I know that we've talked about this. Oh, Commissioner Howard.
Yeah, I think Josh, this is great work here too. I think one concern that I have here that may not be mentioning is it seemed to me based on the extensive reporting, I think done by the Post, that there was a lot of confusion about who, like, because 2 911 calls came in and they didn't know who to respond to, and both were presenting documents that they were in charge. And by nature of trying to resolve the situation, they like let in the Doge people so they could bring them in to have a conversation. And like that's when the Doge people went nuts and like scattered. And they, you know, it seems to me the initial part of this was confusion, was just how Doge got in the building, not that necessarily MPD made a decision Doge was the entity to be let in. And so I think that is going to happen a lot, where they're going to come in claiming they are in charge when there's no, you know, and speaking as someone who used to work for Congress, that most of these things have to be decided by Congress and not by executive order. And so I think there's got to be some training here for these officers to respond to in these situations. Like, how do you, in those critical seconds, you know who is the legitimate owner of the building or the property, and who has legitimate authority over access? Because if they come in waving a document from the president, that's pretty overwhelming, you know, but it may not be accurate, or, you know, that may not be the evidence that they actually need. So I think that Attorney General should be here involved as well.
Yeah, so
Yeah, I agree with all that.
Yeah.
Commissioner
But
Howard,
I know I
totally.
see it's in here, but I just meant like, you know, like,
If you have some recommended language, so I wrote this and tried to tackle a couple of those exact points. I think the proactive nature of this, one, understanding that there was some confusion in that, and so I think it's not trying to cast blame on anybody. It's trying to like get into the weeds on what actually happened and just add some transparency, knowing that this is going to be the first of many times that we're going to probably have this. And then Commissioner Hawker, I think, was the one who actually gave the idea of saying, like, we should specifically be asking the agency to come up, like, proactively prepare how they're going to deal with this and publish that and make sure it's very well documented. And in these situations, what is the protocol? I think that Commissioner Hawker is a really good idea, and hopefully I captured your thoughts
I
here.
would agree, and I think perhaps the only thing I would add after listening to Commissioner Howard is perhaps that we urge widespread training on what to do in these situations. So not just the development of protocol, but the development of a communication plan.
and sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I was going to add, in particular, to the Office of United Communications, right? Like the 911 center.
I would call them the emergency response agencies within the district. Just to keep it broad, so we don't pigeonhole anything into a particular deputy mayor's office if there's any crossover. So the federal liaisons for Homeland Security also exist within this sphere. So we would be hoping to make a contact and communication plan, not just for MPD officers, but for all emergency response within the district on how to move through, as you said, a 911 protocol for this particular situation.
Yes, thank you. I always appreciate your ability to get the legalese.
Thank you. And when you marry an attorney, you just kind of acquire the skills.
Yeah, I can understand. Grateful for your election, Commissioner.
Commissioner, please, Commissioner Hawker, please help me just reword this.
Develop and implemented a targeted communications and training plan for district emergency response agencies. Yeah, this to prepare and respond to jurisdictional challenges. That looks great.
Boom.
The other thing I was gonna add is this may be way off base for this thing, but the other truly alarming aspect of that story was how they immediately went in and got to the secure ammo facility within the building and started loading up on the weapons, which was very alarming. You know, I'm assuming that all is gonna be included in this too, but you know, I don't know if that involves another agency we should throw in there, but
The Institute of Peace had secure weapon.
yes, and they went straight to the facility and unlocked it and grabbed them. Was the Washington Post reporting? I'll double check on that story because I read it like I think a week ago. But it was because I think it was for the security guards of the building, like where they keep.
Oh,
their
I
weapons.
see. I see. So we're looking. Okay.
Right, right.
Actually, that's actually something closer to the office that I work for professionally in terms of sergeant of arms and weapons control for law enforcement. So I can take a look at that.
Yeah.
And generally, what I would say is that part of the emergency response includes sergeant at arms and weapons control. So we would be including that as part of a plan. I work pretty closely with these emergency agencies. So it is part of contingency planning, and they would include this as like part of risk assessment. So it's definitely something that I think this current language would cover.
Yeah, sorry, the term was locked armory, where firearms for security personnel at the site were kept.
Yeah, so sergeant at arms in the armory is sort of like the terminology that surrounds that, but that's part of contingency and co-op planning. So it would be part of whatever communications plan comes out.
Awesome, because that's that whole thing really scared me in that part of the story.
Yeah.
Rightly so, didn't even know about that part, but yes, can
Yeah.
confirm that this would be part of that co-op planning.
Great discussion. Commissioners, any other questions, comments? All right, members of the community, if you have any questions or comments with respect to the resolution, please feel free to raise your hand. All right, seeing none. If there are no other questions, I will now accept a motion with in support of the resolution requesting information on MPD's involvement in DOJ's entry into US IP, urging oversight hearings and calling for improved jurisdictional coordination.
What a mouthful. I'll make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution as written.
Is there any dissent? All right, with no dissent, the motion passes and the resolution is adopted. All right, there are no other resolutions, I believe, under public safety. So I guess just because Commissioner Newland is not here, just a note to everybody that the next meeting of the Public Safety and Engagement Committee will be held on Monday, April 14th at 7 p.m. I do actually just want to take one moment. Commissioner Grant had a fantastic idea over this past week of trying to potentially organize a public safety event, given some of the public safety issues that our respective ANCs or SMDs have been experiencing. For my SMD, the increase in gun violence due to gang warfare between Columbia Heights and LaTroy Park has been prevalent in the past 2 months and extraordinarily alarming. Commissioner Brown has been supporting residents on Hobart who have been dealing with increased drug trafficking and public crime that is associated therein. And Commissioner Grant, you know, it was a fantastic idea. Do you want to express a little bit of what you are thinking and how we can prepare for that agenda item on April 14th?
Yeah, sure. We can, from my SMD, Brian, I've been hearing complaints, especially from neighbors on Newton Street of gunfire, also along Water Street as well. And it just seems as though all of our SMDs are hearing very, very similar problems across the board in terms of public safety. So I think it'd be a great idea to kind of collectively address this, let residents be heard and convene a meeting with MPD and other critical stakeholders, such as the navigators, so that residents can be informed about what MPD is doing, what can be done, and what other actors are doing on this issue in our neighborhood. So one of the things I'd like to do, or I think we can do, is work with our public safety committee to convene a large gathering to bring everybody together to discuss this.
So safe to say the agenda item for the public safety meeting on April 14th would be to begin coordinating around that. What would the meeting objective be?
Yes.
Do we want to be there?
Right.
Perfect. Okay.
Exactly.
Great. Commissioner Brown.
And Chair Footer and Commissioner Grant, if we can talk about this at the next committee of the whole meeting, I'd love to
Yeah.
see if we can, just plan the agenda then, because I think just due to the urgency of it and that there are pockets of activity along the Georgia Avenue corridor, so this impacts, our full ANC, even if some of the crew activity isn't concentrated in our ANC. There are businesses that are impacted, there are residents that
Absolutely.
traverse the corridor, that we can just, with Commissioner Newland, use that time to plan for that meeting and invite the stakeholders, not just, the MPD and the navigators, but we also have Cure Violence that's also, working with
Right.
several targeted areas within our ANC. There's just a bunch of community stakeholders that can, Lower Georgia Avenue, Main Streets. We just lost Shelley, but I'm sure District Bridges would still be like to be part of the conversation. So yeah, let's just
Georgia Avenue Thrive,
be-
that's a great idea. I love that. And to the extent that people are concerned about the ability of our businesses to thrive on Georgia Avenue, and that being a concern of businesses and whether they stay or go, it's certainly in our best interest to include them as well.
Yeah.
Commissioner Brown, I just want to be responsive. So the next meeting of the Public Safety Committee who would talk about how to coordinate this would be on April 14th, and then the next Committee of the Whole is the next day on April 15th. So are you thinking don't wait or wait to have the Public Safety Committee start coordinating on it until after the Committee of the Whole, and so wouldn't get to it until May?
So Committee of the Whole for April is going to be
The day after.
okay. So no Committee of the Whole in April before this meeting.
So the next Committee of Public Safety is on April 14th, and then the Committee of the Whole is on April 15th.
Yeah,
Well, do we have to work within those specific
right.
parameters, Commissioner Footer? Because I do think
Yeah.
it involves some planning. If we want to do
Yeah.
this right,
And-
I think.
So
If we're
just so I understand it, the committee on April 14th is just getting together to coordinate. So who should be invited? What do we want to accomplish? What's the objective? How do we get the word out? Where could it potentially be? Not that the committee meeting is going to be the event.
Oh,
Like-
I see. Okay.
Yeah, and from my perspective, and it's tough because Commissioner Newland is not here, but I was hoping that we could use that committee meeting as an opportunity to have the community participate and us to use that time constructively to have the stakeholders present and provide updates on, what all the stakeholders are doing across the corridor. And we can use the Committee of the Whole if we're not married to the 15th date to plan that with Commissioner Newland so that we don't have to wait. If we have the Committee of the Whole on the 15th, then maybe we could talk about that and table it as part of the agenda for the next, the next public safety meeting. I personally would like to use the committee to do that.
My recommendation, my advice would be that this is going to be bigger than the committee. That the committee might be a really just organized space to just talk through the logistics of organizing it. Having an event of this caliber where this topic it's just very delicate and requires a lot of just thought. We don't want to rush it. And I know that there's a lot of grave urgency, so we don't have to say that this is going to happen in 2 months. We can do it relatively quickly. But my recommendation would be come prepared with ideas. Where do we want to have it? What's the objective? How do we want to do it? Is it a panel? Who do we want to invite? Are we just getting like, what are the logistical pieces of an event like this? And come prepared on the 14th to talk through all that stuff. So then we can execute. And it doesn't have to be part of the committee of the whole. It can be whenever we want, right? The ANC can have a public forum whenever they want it to be. I think the idea of taking it to the committee was just to help organize, because they're already meeting in 2 weeks and it's just a safe space that's been publicly noticed and all of that kind of stuff. But Commissioner Grant, this is your idea. I mean, there are multiple ways about going about it. So, you know, if it's
Let's talk about it. Yeah, we can mull things over and make a decision. I don't think we need to do that here.
Yeah. Okay. We can either talk afterwards if you would like, or we can come prepared to the April 14th. But happy to help kind of project plan as you see fit. And I definitely have some ideas of what we could accomplish with a meeting like this that definitely takes some coordination, and I don't think we can rush it.
If I may suggest as a potential topic for the next public safety and engagement meeting, committee meeting, as an in-between, as it is extremely relevant to perhaps this public forum or whatever event it turns into, or whatever we end up naming the event. Council Member Pinto, who chairs the Public Safety Committee of the district, just introduced the Peace DC plan, which is a long list of actions and legislation of a lot of things that would affect programs that you just mentioned. Combining programs, readjusting the funding for programs, completely new programs, expanding the pilot for programs that have previously existed. So this may be, the Peace DC plan may be a good starting point to sort of understand changes coming to a lot of the components that would immediately affect our area and its funding and what programs are operating, including Cure the Streets, which may be shifting its oversight outside of the Office of the Attorney General. So it may be appropriate to review these potential changes as proposed in this legislation in the committee, and it may help inform, I hope may help inform what we want to do from there, just as an idea of what the district-wide legislators are doing on the matter. So I just learned about this Peace DC 2 days ago, but I think that might be a good guide point to perhaps understand the upcoming changes that council is proposing.
Okay, thanks for that, Commissioner Hawker. That's great. Thank you.
Commissioners, other questions or thoughts?
And I would be happy to pass that information around. I just finished
super
analysis, and I'll let everybody know.
Thank you.
I do see that we have a hand up in the community, so I'll bring Stephanie from the Moker's office up. While she's doing that, just to kind of put a bow on it, members of the public, commissioners, if you're interested in participating in how to organize this event, highly encourage you to come to the April 14th meeting. So we have a robust list of ideas and can have a robust conversation. Stephanie.
Yes, I'm here. No, I only wanted to just mention and point out that MPD also has weekly walks, and for 4D, and 3D is also trying to organize theirs as well as we speak. But MPD always has one every Wednesday, I believe, and the location changes depending on what they have online. But I know last week we were in 1E01, and we did walk to the businesses, and we had the commanders, a lot of different agencies, and we also were expecting the commissioners, but we didn't see any. But I just wanted to also put you guys on that and just let you know that that does take place, and you're always welcome to join the walk. I don't send out the invitation, but if the next one I do receive is in the area in your ward, I will definitely extend it.
Thank you, Stephanie.
And also to clarify, I also know that sometime it is given to us a location the same day, sometime in the morning or like before the time of the walk, but the walks are always at 4:00 every Wednesday.
Okay.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
just
Thanks
wanted
so
to let
much.
you
Yeah,
guys know.
please forward that to us. That'd be fantastic.
Okay.
Thank you, Stephanie. All right. Well, moving on to our final piece of business. And Commissioner Hawker, I will kick it over to you. And as you begin, I will start sharing the resolution.
Okay, wonderful. So as discussed in the Committee of the Whole, I've prepared a resolution to support the swift and unamended passage of Senate Resolution 1077, which concerns the District of Columbia Local Funds Act 2025. So we begin by establishing the fact pattern, the background, the first whereas, the current state of district governance structure, the second addressing the particular piece of legislation that was passed via voice vote in the Senate on March 17th. Don't quote me on that. And then the third whereas establishes that most of our budget is locally raised, locally funded, and locally spent dollars that does not impact and is not usable by the federal government. The fourth whereas establishes that the DC budget is submitted and approved by both houses of Congress every single fiscal year, including the current fiscal year. So the current fiscal year has already been approved to be spent, and the continuing resolution sort of backtracks on that previous approval. And the following whereas explains that the current continuing resolution made that change to its previously passed legislation, which is our budget. Then it goes on to explain the district's current financial situation, its uniqueness in terms of district approval, and then perhaps the most important part is explaining why this is important to DC. So if you take a look at those 3 bullet points, allowing the district to set its own fiscal year aligned with local needs. So this is just saying we would love to go back to doing what we were doing before. You removed this paragraph. Enabling responsive budgeting for emergencies. This is part of us being able to operate on our own calendar. Providing greater certainty for financial markets, including district bond rating stability. This is actually extremely relevant as Moody's changed our rating down. At the same time, the budget instability became clear and was reported. So the final 2 are regarding the Senate's voice vote passage, 100% unanimous, which means all senators, regardless of political affiliation, voted yes to reinstate the district independent financial ability to spend local funds. And so we resolve to say that we support the Senate's unanimous vote for the District of Columbia Local Funds Act. We also resolve to express our appreciation to the Senate for its unanimous passage. And then we also resolve to urge the House of Representatives to follow the example of the Senate. We also would like to resolve and emphasize the importance of timely consideration for the bill without unnecessarily delay. We would also like to emphasize the importance of clean passage to ensure that the bill passes without any amendments or riders that could undermine the district's self-governance. The third, we would like to resolve and emphasize the importance of bipartisan cooperation, that the Senate with 100% unanimous, which is extremely difficult to say that they've done much else 100% unanimous, to encourage the House to follow suit in recognizing budget autonomy as a matter of fundamental democratic fairness. We would like to further resolve and call on future planning for this to not happen again. So we would love for everyone to please consider additional legislation to ensure the district's ability to operate continuously during federal government shutdowns, including legislation that may protect the district from shutdowns, provide essential service guarantees, as well as indicate to bond markets our financial stability, that the district will be able to meet its financial obligations during periods of federal budget uncertainty as such we are in now. So the final resolution, and I'm not sure if this should even be in the resolution section, but we resolve to designate Commissioners Howard and Footer as our points of contact for anything related to this resolution.
Commissioner Howard?
Yeah, a couple things. This is amazing. Thank you so much for doing this. I know it's complicated, and as everyone knows, is learning the budget very quickly with this. The two things in the be it resolved number 2, I would just say don't make any changes at all, because any changes the House makes, it has to go back to the Senate. So I would just
ensure the bill passes without amendments.
Period.
Period.
Yeah,
Cool.
because if they do that, then it has to go back to the Senate. They have to re-vote on it. That's what we're trying to avoid.
Gotcha.
Yeah, so I would just say period there. I would almost
Real quick, where
be it resolved.
Number 2.
ANC 1E emphasizes the importance of number 2, clean passage.
Gotcha.
Ensure the bill passes without amendments, period.
Love it. Thank you. Sorry, continue.
Yeah, and then the only other thing I would say is because this is so pressing and so immediate and so damaging if it goes through, I would almost take out all the other stuff and do a separate resolution on it. Just given the critical nature of this. Yes, they're tied together, but when a ledge staffer sees a bunch of questions, like it's easy for them not to answer any of them is kind of, my experience having managed these offices. And I don't think it hurts at all to do a separate resolution. I defer to the group, but I just think the simpler and straightforward and easy to ask as possible we can make this, the better.
And I think that's completely fine if we wanted to pull this second be it resolved call for additional legislation. As I was discussing with Commissioner Jacobson, the confusing legal environment of how the district has continued to operate during shutdowns is actually not inside continuing resolution language. The continuing resolution language depends on the past district budget legislation. And it is an amendment that Delegate Norton puts in every single year to the budget bill that gets passed by both houses of Congress. It does not go in the continuing resolution. So I think you are correct. It is going to be timely as soon as we finish submitting this year's fiscal year budget. What we want to do is ensure that we issue a resolution saying, also, please don't take out this protection. Also, please let, Delegate Norton put in her usual paragraph about letting us stay open. So this will become relevant, but it is not necessarily currently relevant to this piece of legislation that we are looking at. So I did want to offer just that bit of clarity and research that I did with Commissioner Jacobson.
Yeah, I 100% agree that is very important. And I think too, when we do a resolution and when we do our outreach, obviously I think the message between Democratic leadership and Republican leadership slightly different. Democratic leadership asking this to be in whatever they demand that they need in order to lend their votes, so that we don't have a situation where we're giving away votes for free again. And so, that's perfect language and absolutely critical. I just, because of the urgency of this issue and the dire consequences, yeah.
And then the other piece of this resolution that I just wanted to make the commissioners aware of is I prepared an enclosure letter, which was recommended to me by a few folks. Instead of sending a huge resolution that doesn't necessarily make an ask or tell a thank you, I drafted an enclosure letter addressed to the Senate sponsor and co-sponsors of the bill, specifically saying why we were grateful for their actions and what we hope their actions will inspire in the House. So it is sort of a summary of our resolution, but in easier to understand language that we would enclose with our resolution in our communication to the sponsor and co-sponsors of the bill. So this is not a resolution. This is an enclosure letter that accompanies the resolution. And this is where I took Commissioner Howard's advice to say thank you in a detailed manner for their actions. So we have our legislative priorities and we have our thank you note, two separate documents.
This is great, terrific. And another thing I would just encourage people to do on their own is what I did. I contacted my 2 Arkansas senators just because that's where I'm from. And I think everyone's, if you're not from DC, you're from somewhere else or have a connection from somewhere else, like you have family that lives somewhere, those connections matter in terms of like constituent correspondence and responses from offices. And so I think if you are from a certain place, or you have strong connections to another place that has voting rights, then I would I think advocate there too, and just say thank you, for the unanimous consent, because that means no one objected, so everyone kind of give a nod to that's pretty incredible. And then as we're approaching the House vote, I think if you have connection to a home state congressman, or your family's back home somewhere, or you grew up somewhere, doing your own personal advocacy as a constituent, I think is helpful too. And I just see like Congresswoman Eleanor Norton's staff on everything, just so her team knows that outreach is going on too, and they've been grateful for that. So
that was all I had for that resolution. I just wanted to be clear that I wrote the enclosure letter as just a restatement, but more in a thank you note style. But the resolution expresses our legislative priorities, which is a swift, clean, unchanged passage of Senate Bill 1077. And I will be watching like a hawk on the DC budget bill to ensure that DC continues to operate by having that clause inserted by our representative.
Thank you. I was trying to get to the CC part here, so I want to just.
Oh, I did not go through and update this one. So you can blame ChatGPT and copy my correct CC list on the actual resolution. My apologies.
Not a problem. But any other questions? Well, actually, let me, if you don't mind, I want to say thank you. This is extremely impressive. Fantastic job. Particularly, this is your first resolution. Great. Yes.
Sorry, one more thing. We now have to say where it says under the current language, we now have to say according to public law, number, because it's no longer a bill. It got signed into law. Sorry. So I'll find you the statute. I'll send it to you. And I would say that the district has lost. Like I put it all in past tense. That makes it. We're good. I mean, I can help tweak this a little bit, but it just dawned on me that this is already law, so it's already passed.
Yeah, when I wrote it, it was not signed.
Right. Yeah. No. And I should have caught that sooner. My apologies. I was just looking at it, thinking like, oh wait, no. This is a public law thing now.
Can you do me a favor, because we do need to pass the resolution as written, unless you know exactly how you want to say it, and we'll say within the motion. But is there anything else other than changing this to recognizing the law and its past tense?
What we could say is according to the law.
Public Law 119-4. Sorry, found it.
Yeah.
I'll drop it in the chat too.
Yeah.
Public law.
It's written like what I just.
Thank you.
And then the district is unable to spend its own,
things move fast, eh? Because I wrote this on Sunday.
Well, yeah, I mean, because that was a House bill that the Senate passed, so then they sent to the president, he signed it, and so then it becomes public law, and now we're trying to amend public law is what the
So the
1077 does, yeah.
yeah, the entire time I was writing the resolution, I just had Schoolhouse Rock, How to Becomes a Law playing in my head as I was trying to get the language correct on this.
There's
So.
there's a
Well,
really
this is great. Fantastic job. And you know, we talked earlier and I just want to recognize that, you know, you elected not to put your name in here more out of expediency than anything else. And, you know, I would it'd be great to make sure that your name is in here to get the recognition that you actually wrote this. And
Sure, if you would like to put me in as an additional
I do.
contact, I just felt like I was playing telephone with whatever Commissioner Howard knew. So I wanted to recognize his expertise as well.
Oops.
ILIPPA. You got it. There you go.
I still. Perfect. All right. Any other questions with respect to the resolution? All right. Turning to the public. Any questions or comments with respect to the resolution? Please raise your hand. All right, seeing none. If there are no further questions, I'll now accept a motion in support of or adopting a resolution supporting swift and unamended passage of S1077 District of Columbia Local Funds Act 2025.
I make a motion with unanimous consent that we adopt the resolution as written.
Is there any dissent? All right, hearing none. The motion passes and the resolution is adopted. Thank you all very much. I'm going to bring the agenda back up. Right. So that concludes our official business for the evening. I do want to just make another reminder that as the council member's office had indicated in their comments earlier, the budget hearing cycle is upon us, and April's when we're expecting the mayor to drop the FY26 budget to the council. And what our committees have agreed to do is during the month of April, throughout the committees, to start drafting testimony on particular committees that we may want to have 1E weigh in on. And so throughout this month, please, committee members, chairs of the committees, please make sure that that's an agenda item, and we will consider the testimony, and we'll during our next ANC meeting, which would be on April 23rd. Commissioner Hawker?
Yes, just before we go on that particular topic, the chief financial officer has let the council know that the mayor's budget has yet to be submitted. So everyone please just be alert that the schedule could change depending on our own internal deadlines and whether or not we meet them. So I just wanted to let everyone know that the situation is a bit in flux, and keep your eye on the schedule.
And just so people are aware what that means, pens down from the mayor's office was supposed to be this past Sunday, and they were not prepared for pens down. And so we don't know exactly what the timeline would be, but they're already past what they would like it to be, which, you know, clearly makes some sense considering the flux and debate that's been having happen with what our financial situation is going to be. And so we're all being a bit amenable, but we still want to make sure that we're progressing forward with what we want to, so that we're prepared to be able to provide testimony that needs to be approved in April. So if there are any questions, any ideas, please go to the appropriate committees. One thing that we don't have a committee structure for is in education. I will be bringing an education-related budget resolution. It's not testimony, but it is a resolution around keep funding around preschool. And so if people are interested in that or any other education related budget testimony, please reach out. I'm happy to talk about it and coordinate and doing that together. All right. If there's no other business, then I will accept motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor, please raise your hand. All those opposed? And any abstentions? All right, the motion passes and we are adjourned. Before we go, the next general body meeting of ANC 1E will be held on Wednesday, April 23rd, and the committee of the whole will be held on Tuesday, April 15th. The meeting will be virtual. And information around our events and our next meetings can be found on our website, which is anc1e.org. And as always, please feel free to reach out to your commissioner or any commissioner. And we look forward to seeing you guys next time. Commissioner Grant, do you mind sticking around?
Sure.
Thank you very much.
Good night,
Thanks all.
everyone.
Good night, everyone.